Welcome back to the 45th episode of For a Better America, an independent production of the Lane Theological Seminary in Cincinnati, Ohio. As always, I'm Lyman Beecher, preacher and evangelist.
I'm Robert Owen, economic and labor reformer.
I'm Horace Mann, secretary for the Massachusetts Board of Education.
And I'm Dorothy Dix, mental health and prison advocate. And this podcast is brought to you by our generous donors, the Oneida Association, the American Seamen's Friends Society, and the American Temperance Society.
We meet every week to talk about our struggles and experiences on the road to making America a better place.
As I'm sure many of you listeners are aware, America is still a long ways from living up to the democratic ideals stitched into the fabric of its government.
Absolutely.
Horace, Lyman, Dorothy, and I have worked tirelessly to make America a better place, but our work is far from done. Today, we're going to talk about American society, debate issues with it, and discuss how to solve them. As always, we have 4 topics. Lyman?
We'll be discussing religion, politics, child rearing, and slavery. First up, religion.
Oh, this is interesting.
Has anyone else noticed the recent outpouring of religious enthusiasm here? Take the sudden growth in church attendance of rural people.
I have noticed that, indeed. It's, in my opinion, misplaced faith. Instead of seeking refuge in God from these troubles, the citizenry of America should be seeking refuge in themselves and their own capability as humans to bring about a better world. I know that this is a controversial viewpoint in this circle, but we should improve our society through secular means first.
Well, they're hardly mutually exclusive. Religious revival has given many Americans concrete faith in our ability to create change, myself included. God has changed my life.
Definitely, Dorothy. And I'm in favor of the revivals, too. I believe this whole country is improved every time we find and act on our morality.
No, I agree. Morality is certainly necessary in this day and age, now more than ever. I just don't think that we should be finding our morality in a higher power. Human abilities should not be so easily discounted.
I would disagree. Religion is very important. The Christian benevolent empire has created a lot of social changes. Religion has been a force for good, and religion in the public sphere has improved general morality.
But I'd say that religion isn't necessary to be a good person. Is the Christian morally superior to the Jew or the Muslim or even the atheist?
Not necessarily, but as a whole, Christianity has been a force for good in our country, and that's indisputable.
Absolutely.
Take the First Great Awakening. Those Christian revivals of individual piety spread literacy, devotion, and moral purity.
But Lyman, that reform shouldn't have come from Christianity. I mean, it's the job of the government to improve the populace, right? Not the church.
But the church did it, Robert. It doesn't matter where the improvements came from as long as the improvements happened.
I mean, I guess you have a point.
Interesting discussion, guys. But we have to move on to our second topic, which is politics.
Oh, I've been waiting for this one. I know that I'm new to America, and as a result of this, my political education here has been lacking. But from what I've seen, America's government and her system allows far more opportunities and experiments than my own mother country. I love Britain dearly, but I could never accomplish my work there. The government here has been wonderful to me in what I want to do.
I wish I could be so positive. The government has hardly been accommodating to me. I've had to spend most of my life fighting to pass my reforms.
You know, I had a similar problem with the Parliament early in my career. I tried to pass a bill regulating child labor, of all things, and the version that eventually passed was so watered down as to be meaningless.
I have found that the true driver of change is rarely the government, but the citizenry it's made up of.
Exactly. Consider slavery, for instance. We haven't been able to abolish that horrible practice, not for lack of trying, but for the despicable need of our elected officials to kowtow to Southern powers.
Or the fact that this country depends on slavery, Horace. Our politicians aren't idiots. Slavery has its downsides, but it's crucial to the functioning of our republic. They wouldn't abolish something so important.
That hasn't stopped them before.
That's especially true with this system of democracy you Americans have. You Americans have a greater voice in the direction of America than any other country in the world's citizens do. Frankly, as an Englishman, it makes me jealous.
Exactly. I was fortunate enough to run for the House as a popular candidate. I pity the politician who loses the favor of his constituency.
We do have quite the voice. It's given us significant freedom to advocate for change.
However, the government is often the cause of the need for change as I see it. The mentally ill and imprisoned are placed in squalor, and the government does nothing.
That's true. I think the failings of the American government were adequately demonstrated not long ago, during the panic over specie. The cycle of capitalism here can be vicious. In fact, economic depressions in my own country helped me realize my ambitions as a reformer.
I agree. Van Buren and his ilk make policies designed to help themselves stay in office, not to make change.
Had Jackson not destroyed the bank, the Panic of 1837 probably would have been much less severe.
Exactly.
It can be very hard to change the system from outside it, and politicians, I've noticed, rarely make efforts towards change that does not benefit them in some way.
You were the Secretary of Education, right?
Of Massachusetts, yes. I was pretty successful in pushing my reforms through the state, but as a general rule, politicians dislike change that doesn't benefit them. My reforms passed more due to the lack of strong opposition than anything.
The recent lack of spirituality in our politicians troubles me as much as their resistance to change. I know you disagree, Robert, but I prefer men of God at the head of the country.
Their religion should be of no import, Lyman. If they protect the weak and they protect the downtrodden, they are good politicians.
What moral compass will they follow then?
Whatever one they wish, as long as it steers them towards equality.
Gentlemen, let's move on.
Fair enough.
What's up next then, Lyman?
Great question. Our third topic today is child rearing.
Wow, very topical. Does anyone want to start the discussion?
Sure. I think the biggest issue facing children today is their lack of education. Everyone of all classes should have the opportunity to advance their children in the world. It's the purest implementation of American ideals.
I'd have to respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
Protecting child workers should be our highest priority.
Wait.
The issue is not only the cost for the working classes, education is a luxury which only the rich can afford to spend the time on.
But, Robert, that's only a solution for this generation's poor. We can hardly expect their children to advance in the world without a proper education.
And, Robert, more importantly, school instills values which will be useful to in employment. Attendance, obedience to the bell, and respect for authority are all essential skills for young laborers to be able to succeed.
Yes, exactly. School is a training ground for our next generation to learn proper morals.
Interesting point. It is absolutely true that we should aim to improve the quality of life for children of lesser means.
In addition, think of the benefit to children of all classes if they were able to intermingle. The variety of perspectives would be extraordinary.
Indeed. You know, one of the worst issues I see is the quality of instructions at these institutions. I was visiting a school for girls recently, and their teacher showed up drunk. Can you believe it?
Absolutely. Recall, these are the same teachers who believe corporal punishment is a valid way to discipline.
My God, don't remind me.
Don't take the Lord's name in vain, please.
Well, I agree that it's despicable. This kind of intemperance has only exacerbated the issues with American culture.
Indeed, as Lyman says, this is another advantage of public schooling for all classes. We should promote proper morality.
Definitely.
Although, Horace, I heard you promoted schools becoming secular. Could that be true?
A common misconception. I believe schooling should not subscribe to one sect of Christianity, for it is not the school's place to serve as a tool for specific sects to attack their competitors.
But surely we are all in agreement that the schools must be Christian, or we risk damaging our youth.
Sure.
Well, if only it was so easy to say that. We must remember that there are many other types of religion in this country. By respecting all of them, including those who don't subscribe to any religion, we will enable everyone to access education. I do not think that religion should be a prerequisite for learning.
Fascinating. Perhaps that's an effective way to avoid the factualization endemic to American religion.
Yeah, indeed. It's the idea which Horace brought up earlier. Multiple perspectives can be very beneficial. I know my life changed when I saw the horrific treatment of our prisoners. I'd never seen something as awful before. I think we must always be willing to set aside our differences to work for a common goal.
Interesting point.
Well, shall we move on to our final topic?
Absolutely. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about slavery, the most controversial subject of this age.
It seems to be a great evil to exist, frankly. It's no more than terrible oppression against those enslaved for the benefit of a few planters. My work in education has been in large part to reduce inequality, and this is by far the greatest case of that.
I'm not sure if your education work has any relevance here. After all, slaves get little freedom, so what use would they have for education? It's not like they get to use it in the fields.
I don't know about that, Dorothy. That's more because they have no opportunity to exercise any education than because they have no need for it.
Education may be of little use in field work, however, one doesn't need to be in the field if one has an education. The purpose of education is to give everyone adequate competence at what knowledge they need to achieve most jobs, but without it, only field work is possible. You're putting the relationship exactly backwards.
It may be that slaves could work better jobs if educated. However, given what I've seen of them, they wouldn't perform very well with the attitude they have, no matter their education.
Perhaps we should return to the topic of slavery as a whole?
I think you're right, Lyman.
I hope then that we can at least agree slave owners are terribly self-interested and corrupt.
That they often are, and in practice, they use to exploit many people with no benefit to those enslaved is the greatest example of this fault.
It's not like they're that bad on the slaves, really.
They are, though. Slaves are routinely attacked with repeated lashings for no just cause, and made to work with nothing more than what is required to make them productive.
Not to mention the consistent suppression of any dissent, including holding their slaves from any opportunity for advancement or education.
You seem to be ignoring that such measures are required to keep slaves in line and productive, rather than just doing whatever they want off their owner's wealth.
If you need that much violence to keep a few people productive, then you're doing something wrong on a fundamental level. Considering the success of the wage systems used for factory workers, slavery doesn't even have the excuse of being economically efficient anymore. It has no purpose other than exacting suffering and inequality for the enslaved population.
While slavery is abhorrent, it would be unjust to blame those currently taking part in it for its existence. People are shaped by their experiences, and today's slave owners were raised to believe that their practice was right and proper. Slavery should be ended, but we shouldn't imprison and punish everyone who has taken part in it, for they carry little blame in it of themselves. Furthermore, slavery is nothing more than a system of capitalism. Capitalism, by its nature, is an exploitative system. Right here, we are treating the snake bite when we should be killing the snake.
All right, Robert. Now, while I disagree with all your condemnations of slavery, I must also oppose the notion that the slaveholder is blameless, because that's what he was raised to do. There is nothing to inherently make someone corrupt and uncaring. That fault rests solely on them.
While we all disagree on how to solve it, slavery is a problem that needs a solution, right?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, yeah.
As long as we continue striving to make America a better place in the eyes of God and man, we are accomplishing our goals.
And that's all we can do, bit by bit, day by day, week by week, year by year. We strive and we struggle to improve this great democratic experiment for all its citizens.
Whether it be for the imprisoned,
The morally bereft,
The poor
Or the children.
will keep trying until we accomplish our goals.
That's all for this episode of For a Better America. We hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for episode 46, where our 4 topics will be women's rights, temperance, literacy, and Mormonism. See you then.
Against those enslaved for the benefit of a few planters. My work in education has been in large part to reduce inequality.
That's especially true with this system of democracy you Americans have. Y'all have... Fuck, why did I say y'all? That doesn't make any sense.